Good evening, guys. This is Leffin doing another video for you. I know it's been a few days since I've done my last video and all, so I'm going to try and keep these short and brief. One of the biggest complaints I've had as far as like videos wise is they're too long. So from now on, all my videos are going to be really, really short. Like, short little here, this subject, here, that subject, and let's move on. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to talk about today, and the only thing I'm going to talk about in this video, is going to be basically your armor. And for different types of armor, you need the materials in order to be able to do it. Now, there's a few different ways in order to obtain your armor, right? One of them is going through and buying packages like this. So you could go through and buy the different materials that you need in order to be able to get there. And each one of these different packages has the insignia of what type of armor it basically is helping out with. So these silk is going to be basically for your emperor or your Emperor's Wrath package, I believe, or a type of armor. Now, what you can do is you can go through and buy these, but it's super, super expensive. And you're going to go through and get a whole crap ton of that. But it's easier just to let your armor gain organically, like through the game. And then whenever Hellforge comes up, do that. Or have it to where like people go through and they raid crypts and they happen to give you armor pieces that way. Whenever you buy a package from this game, you'll notice that in the package, so let's say that I click on one of these or bring it down, you'll see at the very bottom of it, it has the different types of chests. Each one of these has armor inside of it, and it gives you a certain amount of percentage as far as like, oh, it's definitely going to be this, or it might be that, or it might be that. This is the lowest level. Green is basically the third level of it. And so you have a 5% chance. So one out of every single 20 pieces will be a green level piece of, that can help you towards building that piece of armor. So needless to say, it's going to take you a while in order to get there. So let's say, for instance, right, that you have the pieces, money is not a thing or whatever, and you have it to where all the pieces are there. So we're going to go on over to basically our forge, which is down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And we're going to craft equipment, and we're going to see what exactly do we need. Now, when you first start out the game, most people, they go for Guardsman Courage. That is the most basic level of armor that you can do. And in it, you have the different levels. So you have gray, which is the most basic. For this, all you basically need is just to, buy it flat outright and get a few little pieces of it. But a lot of times you'll have gray level pieces already from the start. And then as you go on up, you're going to need more and more in order to get there. It's kind of like when you deal with enchantments or whatever, you need 4 of the gray in order to equal 1 of the white. And you could go through and hit combine in order to get there. Now, most people, they have to upgrade their blacksmithing ability in order to be able to get past the white area to get where you get into the green or the blue. So it takes you a little bit of time. But let's say, for instance, that none of this is even an issue. You've already gotten to the point to where you've started to combine the pieces together and you're starting to figure out what pieces of armor you have. Now, each one of these also has its bonuses. And from this, you can tell, like, okay, for Guardsman Courage, this hammer will give me Guardsman Strength, Guardsman Health, chance of a Guardsman to deal double damage, and then also the durability of it. The durability for almost all pieces of armor is right around 30. Now, as you upgrade in the blacksmithing area, you can increase the durability to where it's like 35 or 40, I think, is the highest that you could possibly get it. I'm not completely sure, but needless to say, it still sucks. What that means is when you initially get it, you can go into 30 fights with that armor being equipped to a character or captain that basically has that armor utilized. When the 30 fights is over with, it's going to run out and you're going to have to go through and repair it. That would be where you go into workbench and then you go into clicking and repairing it. And then it'll be a durability of 29, then 28, and blah, 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 on down the line. Basically, that piece of armor is going to be good for about 450 fights. Probably about 450 fights if I'm doing my math correctly. Now, for some people, when you're going through and you're battling common monster after common monster after common monster with the exact same character, this equipment is going to wear out quickly. Doesn't matter whether or not it's a godlike piece of armor or all the way down to the most basic level of armor. So you're going to go through armor pretty quickly in this game. The only way that you are not going to go through armor very quickly is if you get Beowulf armor, which Beowulf armor has a durability of 1000. Okay, so now that we have an idea as far as generally what armor can and cannot do, and you can look at the screen in order to be able to tell this. Now, granted, it does a much, much better job on the computer where you can see it all laid out for you as opposed to on your phone. I usually play through my phone most of the time, but if you play by a computer, you can see it's all broken down for you for each level, exactly what it does, and it's nice and easy to read. Now, ideally, everybody would be getting godlike pieces of armor, but you have to play for a long time. You have to buy a lot of packages. You have to have it to where you raid a lot of crypts in order to be able to get up to this level. So, needless to say, it's difficult. If you go into Hellforge, you can buy those these pieces of armor for basically like a good amount of Hellforge coins and everything, but you're going to have to play a lot, which means you're going to have to spend a lot of gold in order to be able to get there. And you might have it to where you're like, oh, I'm going to get a piece of godlike, hammer or whatever. Just remember, it will wear out after 450 fights. So sometimes it's more about quantity on the amount of captains and hero that actually has armor versus the quality of it, because once the quality basically gets degraded to the fact that like you basically run out of durability, there's no point in having it. Okay, so now that we've gone through and covered basically why you would want to get the armor, how long the armor lasts, let's go through and figure out what armor you do and do not need on your captains and characters. And I'm going to show you my different characters and basically tell you the examples as far as how I use them in order for you to be able to determine what you do and do not need. Okay, so for guardsman level, this is good for like guardsman courage. This is good for if you're trying to get your captain or your hero initially set up. And you can have it to where there's 6 different kinds of armor. You have it to where you have this like basically kind of like looking like an accordion thing. You have a shield. You have the boots, you have the chest plate, you have the helmet, and then you have the hammer. So with all 6 of these, you can attach this to your main hero and have it to where they are able to fight with a little bit of bonus, a 1.5%. Multiply that by 6 on your hero, and you basically get a 9% increase, which at first it's a little bit helpful and everything. But as you get further up and everything, you really need to get into the white, the green, and the other levels. So let's say, for instance, now that you are getting further into the game and you got to decide what you would like to have, what pieces. Okay, so for your main hero will need 2 sets of armor. Here's the reason why. Your main hero is going to be stuck in the city most of the time. You have no reason to have it to where your hero is constantly out of the city, because of the fact that they don't raid crypts, they don't go through and gather resources, they don't do most of the fights against common monsters, they only fight heroics and rare, and hardly ever do you get to take it on Epic Monster Run. You do get to take it on Shadow Invasion, if I remember correctly, but that is about the only one. And then also whenever you fight other players in order to get CP points. So for your main hero, you will need a Honored Ruler set of armor. And by an Honored Ruler set of armor, I mean every single piece. You need all 6. Now what this does is it increases the production of building resources. Silver and food production goes up. Construction speed goes up by a good bit. Also, you get your research speed going up. And the good thing about this is if you're keeping it on your hero and your hero is inside your city, you don't have to worry about the durability of this. This is something that will last you the entirety of the game. So it is a very, very wise investment. And as you can see, as the research speed goes up, this is a huge amount of money saving that you'll have when it comes down to the speed ups later on in the game. Because once you're upgrading your construction on your buildings, or whether or not it's your army, the different research in order to improve your army and everything, is to where that will greatly help it. So construction up, speed up, or research speed up, it's a very good thing. So no matter what, you are going to need to get this set of armor for your hero. Whatever level you can, it'll help you out a good bit. The other set of armor that you probably need for your hero, and this is one that I highly recommend, is Emperor's Wrath. Emperor's Wrath is basically for your hero, and what it does is it improves the army strength, army health, and that is good for your entire army. Doesn't matter whether or not it's a catapult or a griffin, or like a melee unit or a mounted unit. It doesn't matter what the heck kind of forces that you have, it improves all of them, especially if you're using a lot of mercs and everything with your army. This, equipped with your main hero, would go through and drastically improve your army. And you can see godlike for this one is all the way up at 42.7%. If you had that for every single piece on your main hero, that is basically 255% or so, 256%. Yeah, 256%. Big, huge boost for your army. Right now, I think I have it at, oh gosh, like green. Yeah, green or whatever. It's not great, but I'm getting there. Once I get a little bit more, like next Hellforge, I'll probably go through and try and upgrade it to purple. But for right now, at least it's better than what it was. So your main hero, you need the Emperor's Wrath. And you also need the Honored Ruler set. Okay, next one is going to be for Stror. Basically, your gatherer. He's the little dwarf guy and everything that likes to run around and is short and pudgy. Okay, for Stror, you need 3 pieces of armor, right? And there's granted 6 different types, but you don't need it just because of the fact that Stror only has 3 different spots available. If you're like me and you're trying to play for basically as little as possible in the game, this is a great way in order to start the game out with. Don't buy a huge amount of packages in the game until you know how to play the game, because then you're just going to be wasting a heck of a lot of money. So in this case and everything, I could go through and have it to where his percentage of resource gathering speed on the world map goes up drastically. If I had him in purple set and everything, that's 100% faster. That, coupled with leveling up the character of Stror and everything, makes a huge difference. So if you get up to godlike armor, 3 pieces, that's 750% faster. For those of you that gather a lot of silver whenever you see villages and everything else like that, especially when you get higher up in the game and you have it to where you're spending silver constantly, whether or not to buy mercs or to go through and replenish your army after fighting an epic monster once for 1 hit. You just go through and let all of them die off. You don't revive them, and you just spend the silver in order to go through and replace them. This is a good way to do it. You have to have basically villages going and store at 250% plus 3 or times 3 at 750% speed. This would be a good way to go. So make sure that he has 3 of these pieces. It really doesn't matter which 3 they are. They all do the exact same darn thing. So who gives a darn? So Swift Wayfarer, very, very good idea. Next one is Tomb Raider. This one is for Carter. So Carter is basically your one that is going to be going to the crypts and exploring them. So for Carter, what you would do is you need 3 pieces. It doesn't matter what 3 it is. I went through and I just knocked out the top 3, like the axe, the hood, and then this weird cloak looking thing or whatever. Or the coat, sorry. So then at that point and everything, whenever you're hitting a common crypt or a rare crypt or an epic, I think. Yeah, something like that. Anyways, whenever you're going through and hitting those crypts, this will make it to where you can hit it less times. So instead of you sending a march out and a march back, it improves his amount of tar capacity. You also have the tar production and everything in your city goes up whenever he's there, if he's wearing this armor. And then the crypt exploration efficiency also goes up. If you decide to attach this to your main hero and everything, it is good for the tar production, but that's about it. Other than that, it really just belongs on Carter. That's the only real good way to basically do this. So you will need to get this set of 3 for Carter himself. Don't have it to where you get more than 1 set, because you really don't need to go through and help out like your other characters as far as raiding crypts. You should only be doing really 1 character of crypts at a time. that's the easier way to do it. All right, so skillful engineer, you can always put this on brand, but in all honesty, I don't even use brand, so I don't even see the purpose of it. Specialist authority, this would be if you have it like you're using your main hero is the one that assassinates the other person's character or whatever. If you scout them and you basically try and go on in and kill their main character, this would be good for the armor that they're using. But if you're not using that guy, then this is pretty much useless. Specialist authority, not really that great of a thing. Now, for these over here, when we're getting to these, the Emerald Guardian, this one is to where it says a boost for your melee units. Now, the problem with these is that trying to get these pieces of, like, materials is really, really difficult in order to find. Now, granted, I have like 2 or 3 of each of these and everything, but it's not that easy. The best way in order to go through and get any of these is through Hellforge. Now you can see that the melee unit's strength is going to drastically go on up if you have this attached. So if you gave this like set to, I don't know, Leonidas, this would be a really good idea. Like, hey, I'm going to have Leonidas have an army of spearmen, or an army with a whole heck of a lot of specialist swordsmen and everything. You could go through and attach him with this hammer, with this crown looking thing, and then also with this, chest plate of armor or whatever. This would be a good idea for Leonidas if you would like to go that route. The next one and everything is flying units. This would be good for Wu Zetian. She's basically the one that's the flyer. She's a legendary captain or whatever. If you have her, this is a good way to go. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning these different ones as far as the legendary captains is because chances are if you have, like, you get further into the game and you have legendary captains, you're not using the basic one, which is the Guardsman Courage anymore. You probably want to make it to where it's more specific to the captain that you're using, so that they specialize and their army that you keep with them is going to be more specialized to what exactly they are. Like I have Coraxes right now instead of Griffins, which is a higher level one. And so I could go through and basically have Wu Zetian have all these for flying units, and that would be a good idea. I use Leonidas a lot, so I can go through and equip Leonidas with all this one. Next time I hit Hellforge, I'm going to go through and give Leonidas a really good set of this armor. And then the other ones on here, if you decide to use Alexander, he is good for mounted units. So for Steep Enslaver or whatever, this would be the one that basically you're going to give to Alexander. For this one right here, we have our ranged units. This would be the one that, oh gosh, I can't remember the name. You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to go out of this. Let's go up to our captains. This might actually benefit you guys because you'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember this one. All right, so let's go on up to Cleopatra. We're going to skip out of her. Which one is it? Ramses is good for health and everything. You could basically put any type of army with him. Not Helen. Let's go through and scroll down. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to remember. Aha, Minamoto. Minamoto is a ranged unit killer and everything like that. So if you're having a ranged unit, let's go back on over to it. Back to our forge. Let's go through and craft equipment. Down, down, down. Okay, so for ranged units, Sagittarius's Fury, this would be good for Minamoto. Minamoto is your legendary captain. I think it's for every single level that he goes up, your ranged units improve by 2% each time. Minamoto would be ideal if you have it to where you're defending your, or your city or whatever. He is really, really good in defense and everything. Not so much on killing monsters and not so much on going through and attacking other people, but he is very, very good as far as defense-wise. The last one, Omnisense or whatever, this one is basically for Carter and all that kind of stuff, but it's a little bit different. So with this, you can see Crypt Exploration Efficiency, Epic Crypt Exploration Efficiency. So it's a higher level Carter one, Crypt March Speed, and Crypt March Range. Now, let's look at the other one. Omnisense is Crypt Exploration. Did I do that right? Ah, sorry. Oh, yeah, I was going the wrong direction with that. Sorry. Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider says crypt exploration efficiency, so the exact same, but it only goes up to 50%, so it's not as good. It's got tar capacity and tar production, whereas the other one is a higher level one. So if I'm like worried about Carter and everything and going through and getting it to where he's max boosted, then I'm going to go through and try and do this stuff under the Omnisense, like one. And then this would basically go through and boost him on up. Like right now, I have it to where my Carter is at, I think he's at like level 200 or so, right around there. And I hit a level 25 common crypt and I do like 96%. And that's with crypt exploration maxed out under, your tactics and talents and everything. So that's pretty good, but it can always get a little bit better. Omnisense would be the best way in order to go through and improve this because instead of 50% being the max, this one has 107% as the max. So I can go through and boost them up a whole heck of a lot further to where common crypts now are one shot, one kill on each one of them. So this would be a good way to do it. All right, and then we go down to the bottom ones and everything. Warrior Ragnarok, this is best for whoever it is that's going to be fighting your epic global monsters. I use it on Hercules and everything. It's always a good way to basically go through and do it. But lately, since I got the Beowulf armor and everything, I think it's at a red level right now. It's to where it's more powerful than the Warrior of Ragnarok somewhat in some ways. So this one, if you get Godlike of the Warrior of Ragnarok and everything, you can get it up to 210%, whereas the other one is at 100%. You know what? I'm correcting myself. Yeah, this is actually better in order to go through and use. Right now I have it to where I think my Hercules had it to where he had purple. If I was to get him to where he was up to the red, it would make it worth it. But for right now, I'm still low enough level. If you have it to where you're fighting in Ragnarok and everything, and you can get on up to the red level and everything, this will be better than if you're using the Beowulf armor. Sorry, guys, my mistake. I'm going to have to try and go for this and everything, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be fighting Ragnarok, Fenrir especially, for a long time in order to be able to get on up to this godlike level. But 210%, 3 pieces, 630%. Yeah, it is pretty good. All right, so I think that pretty much covers it as far as what you guys need and everything like that, whether or not it's War Master, which I don't agree, Guardian of Justice and everything. I'm sure that this is going to be difficult in order to find the pieces for or whatever. But when you're first starting out the game, Guardsman Courage is a good way to go. But then once you evolve in the game, Honored Ruler, and then also your Emperor's Wrath is the best thing for them. And then if you're talking about Store, you need Swift Wayfarer, which is right here. And then Carter would be Tomb Raider. As Carter gets further into it, then Omnisense. And then Emerald Guardian would basically be for Leonidas. This would be for Wu Zetian, your flyer. Mounted would be for Alexander. Minamoto for the ranged units one right here, Sagittarius Fury. And then your Warrior of Ragnarok would probably be for Hercules or Beowulf or whoever it is that you have that is going to be fighting the epic level monsters, because this gears specifically to the epic level monsters and bonuses. With that, that is all that you guys basically need to know about the different kinds of armor, who needs it, who doesn't need it, all that other kind of stuff. If you're in doubt and everything like that, you can always go through and do Guardsman Courage for whoever, and it doesn't really matter. Other than that, you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.